You walk into a room and instantly everything shifts. Eyes glance, people take note, not because you shouted, not because you demanded attention, but because something about you, your presence, spoke before you did. Ever wondered how some people command that kind of silent power? Here's the truth: they weren't born with it. They built it. Every single. That power, that magnetic, unforgettable energy, is not reserved for the elite or the genetically blessed. It belongs to anyone ruthless enough to choose growth over comfort. Your personality isn't set in stone. It's a living, breathing force that evolves, only if you do. You walk into a room and you say nothing, and yet people notice. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's presence. And presence has nothing to do with how loud you are, how attractive you look, or how many followers you have. Presence is energy. It's the way you stand, the way your eyes meet others without flinching, the way you breathe with control, like you own your space. It's not forced, it's not loud, it's powerful because it's calm. Most people walk into a room hoping to be liked, hoping to be accepted. They adjust their personality to the vibe of the space instead of being the one who sets the tone. But when you work on your internal confidence, when you've built discipline behind closed doors, you don't chase energy, you bring it. You become the person others pay attention to, not because you beg for it, but because you carry yourself like someone who doesn't need permission to be great. Presence is built through the little things. Your posture when no one's watching, the way you carry your silence, the way you sit at the table, not shrinking, not fidgeting, but grounded, focused, and alert. People feel energy before they hear words. So when you walk in, do you walk like someone who knows their value, or someone still asking for it? You want people to take you seriously. Learn to be still. Learn to own the silence. You don't need to overshare. You don't need to over-explain. You need to show up like someone who already belongs. That's what presence is. It's your reputation arriving before your voice. And that kind of presence, it's not something you're born with. It's something you earn. Through discipline, through self-awareness, and through the quiet decision, every single day, to stop waiting for validation and start embodying it. People love to throw their hands up and say, "Well, I've always been this way," as if that's some kind of life sentence, as if they've been handed a personality and now they're stuck with it forever. That's not truth. That's a cop-out. You weren't born strong. You weren't born disciplined. You weren't born confident. Those are skills. And like any skill, they can be trained, sharpened, and mastered. If you have the guts to do the work. You think the people who walk with confidence just woke up that way. No, they fought for that. They built it when no one was clapping, when no one believed in them, when they had every reason to give up. They didn't become who they are by chance. They became that person by choice. And that's the difference between someone who evolves and someone who stays stuck. One makes excuses. The other makes moves. Your personality is not some fixed identity written in your DNA. It's a living reflection of your decisions. Every time you choose to speak up instead of staying silent, every time you practice self-control instead of snapping, every time you show up with respect, courage, or integrity, you are building the person you want to become. Piece by piece, layer by layer, day by day. And here's the hard truth most people avoiding: if you don't build your personality, the world will shape it for you. Society will tell you how to act. Trauma will tell you how to think. Insecurity will run the show, and you'll wake up 10 years from now wondering why you don't recognize yourself. You want change. You want real growth. Then stop saying, "That's just the way I am," and start asking, "Who do I need to become?" Because becoming isn't about reinventing yourself once. It's about refining yourself constantly. The best version of you doesn't just appear one day. It's forged in discomfort. It's shaped in silence. And if you're waiting to feel ready, you're already losing. You become magnetic, powerful, unshakable, by deciding every single day to do what others won't. That's how personality is built. And anything built can be rebuilt, if you're willing to fight for it. That phrase, "This is just who I am," is one of the most dangerous things you can tell yourself. It sounds harmless. It sounds like self-acceptance. But what it really is a prison. It's a defense mechanism. It's what people say when they've stopped growing, when they've chosen comfort over change. when they're too afraid to confront the truth about what's holding them back. Because let's be real, this is who I am often means, this is who I'm choosing to stay. Every time you say that, you give yourself permission to stay stuck. You stop holding yourself accountable. You stop challenging your patterns, your habits, your reactions. You just surrender and wrap it all up in a pretty label personality. But your personality is not a shield. It's not an excuse for laziness, for disrespect, for fear, for silence. It's a reflection of what you tolerate in yourself. You want to evolve, then kill the lie. Kill the comfort of labeling yourself like it's permanent. You're not a brand. You're a human being with the capacity to transform, to adapt, to sharpen. Don't say, I'm just not good with people. Say, I haven't practiced communication yet. Don't say, I've always had a temper. Say, I haven't mastered my emotions yet. You're not finished. You're not fixed. And thank God for that. Because the most powerful people you'll ever meet are the ones who refuse to stay the same. Growth demands responsibility. It demands you take a hard look at the traits that keep sabotaging you and stop blaming the past, your upbringing, your zodiac sign, your environment. You are not your trauma. You are not your childhood. You are not your mistakes. You are your decisions. And the moment you realize that, really realize that, you stop defending your limitations and start demolishing them. You've got to become dangerous in the best way, dangerous to your old habits, dangerous to your excuses, dangerous to that voice in your head that tells you to play it safe. The people who rise are not the ones who had the perfect blueprint. They're the ones who got sick of their own lies and said, enough. They looked in the mirror and said, if I don't like this, I will change it. Not tomorrow. Now. That's how evolution starts. That's when personality stops being a label and starts becoming a weapon. The second you open your eyes in the morning, the battle begins. And most people lose before they even leave the bed. Not because they're weak, but because they don't understand one critical truth. Your first thoughts shape your entire day. Your mindset isn't something you switch on halfway through. It starts the moment your feet hit the floor. And what you tell yourself in that moment is everything. If the first words you say to yourself are, I'm tired, I'm not ready, today's going to suck, guess what? You've already handed your power away. You've trained your body to expect failure, to move slow, to play small, and it listens. Because your body obeys your mind, that's not self-care, that's self-sabotage. But the dangerous part is, you don't even notice it happening. It becomes your routine, your habit, your identity. You become the person who always wakes up defeated. And the worst part, you think it's normal. But there's another option. You get up, and you decide how your day starts. Not based on how you feel, based on who you are becoming. You don't wait to feel inspired. You command your mindset like a soldier reporting for duty. You stand up, breathe deep, and speak power into yourself. I've got work to do. I'm not here to blend in. I'm here to lead. Let's go. You program your identity before the world gets a chance to do it for you. That's where your personality gets its edge. Not from how you act when things are easy, but from how you carry yourself before the world even sees you. Most people underestimate the quiet power of self-talk. But every time you speak, especially to yourself, you're planting something. Words are seeds. And if you're planting weakness every morning, don't be surprised when your personality doesn't grow. You want to sharpen your presence. Start with the first 5 minutes of your day. Not scrolling, not reacting, but commanding. Build the mental armor before you walk into battle, because life will come at you. Unexpected, messy, and loud. And if you don't train your mind to lead, your emotions will take over. Your fears will speak louder than your focus. And you'll become the kind of person who's always reacting, never driving. You shape your personality by shaping your mornings. That's the foundation. That's the first fight. And if you win that, if you win yourself, everything else becomes strategy. But it starts with one decision. What story do I choose to believe the moment I wake up? Because that story, that's the beginning of your power. Or the end of it. You want to be unforgettable. You want to walk into a room and have people feel something. Then stop trying to perform. Stop trying to entertain or impress. That kind of personality, the kind that burns hot and fades fast, is not what creates real power, real presence, real influence. That comes from one thing: discipline. People think charisma is what makes someone magnetic. It's not. Discipline is. Because the person who is disciplined doesn't flinch under pressure. They don't fold when the energy shifts. They don't break when life hits back. Why? Because they've been here before. They've trained for this. Behind closed doors. In silence. Without applause. When no one was watching and no one cared. That's the difference. Most people want the spotlight, but they haven't earned it. They want to shine without building the heat to withstand it. They want to look confident without doing the uncomfortable inner work that real confidence requires. And that's why their presence feels hollow. That's why they burn out, blend in, or need constant validation to keep going. But discipline, that quiet, repetitive, brutal consistency, that's what builds substance behind the surface. That's what makes a person unshakable. See, discipline is what keeps you aligned with who you say you are. It's the invisible force that shapes your personality when the world isn't watching. Anyone can be nice when things are easy. Anyone can be bold when people are cheering. But what about when you're tired? When you're disrespected? When you're overlooked, dismissed, or underestimated? That's when your true personality speaks. And if you haven't trained yourself to lead from discipline, you'll react from emotion. You'll crumble. You'll self-sabotage. And worst of all, you won't even realize it. That's why discipline is everything. It's not glamorous. It's not fun. It's not something you post about with a filter and a motivational quote. It's waking up when you said you would. It's honoring your word when no one would notice if you didn't. It's speaking with integrity even when it costs you. And it's doing it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. Because every time you keep that promise to yourself, your identity grows stronger, your self-respect deepens, and your personality starts carrying a quiet weight that doesn't need to be explained. People can feel that. They can feel when someone is rooted, grounded, built from repetition, not reaction. That kind of presence doesn't come from hype. It comes from history. From the internal battles you've won 1,000 times in silence. That's why disciplined people are magnetic. They don't need to fake energy, because they are energy. They don't need to dominate a conversation, because their presence already commands respect. They don't have to compete. They attract. But here's the part that no one tells you. Discipline is lonely. It's boring. It's repetitive. You'll have days where nothing makes sense, where no one supports you, where quitting feels easier. And on those days, you'll realize who you really are. Not when things are going well, but when everything's stacked against you. That's when you find out if your discipline is real or if it was just a mood. You have to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is the work, not the post, not the applause, not the outcome. This, the repetition, the delayed gratification, the uncomfortable choices. This is the work that no one will thank you for. But it's what will separate you from everyone else in the room. Because let's be honest. Talk is cheap. Everyone's got motivation when it's convenient. Everyone claims they want to grow until it costs them comfort. But disciplined people, they don't wait for motivation. They build structure. They create systems. They run their lives like they're on a mission. Because they are. They know who they want to be, and they reverse engineer their habits, their mindset, and their schedule to match that identity. You want to improve your personality? Then build the habits that shape someone powerful. Don't just talk like a leader. Wake up like one, read like one, train like one, listen like one, make decisions like one. Because the person you become in private is the person the world will eventually meet. You can't fake that. Not for long. And here's the real twist. Discipline isn't just about what you do, it's about what you don't do. It's walking away from gossip. Saying no to the things that drain you, not reacting when your ego gets bruised, holding your tongue when you want to clap back, resisting the urge to over-explain yourself. That takes strength. That takes control. And every time you exercise that restraint, you hardwire power into your personality. You stop being someone who needs to prove something. You become someone who already knows. The lewdest person in the room isn't the strongest. The most reactive isn't the most passionate. The one who wins is the one who can sit in the storm and still act with precision, who can get provoked and still lead with grace, who can fail in public and still rise without losing their identity. That's discipline. That's where personality stops being performative and starts becoming transformational. And I get it. You're tired. You're human. So am I. We all are. But that's not an excuse to drop your standards. That's a reason to raise them. Because when things fall apart, the disciplined don't panic. They pivot. They don't fall apart. They reset. They don't become victims. They become stronger. That's the kind of personality people remember. Not the one that shows up when it's easy, but the one that stands tall when others fall. So if you walk through life with power, with clarity, with unshakable presence, then forget the performance. Forget the hype. Start mastering yourself, hour by hour, day by day. Keep the promises no one sees. Choose the hard thing when the easy thing is begging for your attention. Hold the line when your emotions try to take the wheel. Because discipline isn't punishment. It's protection. It protects your reputation. It protects your peace. It protects the vision you're building when the world around you is chaotic and loud and full of distractions. That's where real personality is forged. Not in a single moment, but in thousands of quiet ones. And the people who understand that, they don't need to tell you who they are. You feel it. Before they speak. Before they move. And long after they've gone. Most people think strength means domination. That if you want to be respected, you have to talk the loudest, walk the hardest, flex the most. But the truth is, real strength, true influence, has nothing to do with ego. It's not about being intimidating. It's about being deeply connected, being present, being aware, because the strongest people in the room are the ones who don't just speak. They see. They don't just lead, they listen. They pay attention to what others miss. And that right there, that's where influence begins. Not with power, but with empathy. Empathy doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous. Because when you understand people, you can lead them. You can read between the lines. You can spot insecurities behind smiles. You can navigate tension without reacting. You can respond without exploding. That's a level of emotional intelligence most people never reach because they're too busy performing, proving, competing. But when you develop empathy, you stop needing to be the loudest. You become the one everyone listens to, because they know you're not just hearing words, you're catching what they really mean. It's a different kind of power, silent, tactical, and unshakable. You don't improve your personality by memorizing charm or learning to fake warmth. You improve it by giving people the thing they rarely get in this world, genuine presence. When you sit with someone and you're not waiting to speak, but actually tuning in, actually making them feel seen, everything changes. Trust is built, connection is built, and you don't have to push your personality onto them. They feel it. That kind of depth doesn't need volume. It needs clarity. It needs patience. And it needs strength. Empathy allows you to remain grounded when others are spinning. When someone lashes out, your ego doesn't take over. You see their pain. When a conversation gets tense, you don't escalate it. You de-escalate with composure. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Most people walk into a room ready to fight for their identity, but a person with empathy already owns theirs. They don't need to defend it. And because they're not reactive, they can lead conversations, influence decisions, control energy without ever raising their voice. That's what separates a powerful personality from a chaotic one. One is built on presence, the other on performance. And let's be honest, it takes work, because empathy means slowing down. It means shutting off your need to be right. It means noticing the tone behind the words, the pause behind the sentence, the discomfort someone's trying to hide. It means understanding that most people act out of fear, not hate, out of hurt, not hostility. And when you see that, you stop taking everything personally. You stop being so easily thrown off. You start responding with precision instead of pride. You want real influence. Show people that you're not just interested in talking, you're interested in understanding. That doesn't mean you let people walk over you. It means you're strong enough to lead with grace instead of ego. You don't have to dominate every interaction. You don't need to prove your value. When you have empathy, your value speaks through you. In how you listen, how you observe, and how you respond, people remember how you made them feel. And someone who can see through noise, cut through chaos, and connect with calm focus, that's unforgettable. That's powerful. That's the kind of personality that doesn't just enter a room, it enters it, without force, without show, just clarity, and an unshakable understanding of what truly moves people. Everyone's obsessed with being impressive. They chase applause, attention, and admiration like it's oxygen. They want people to notice their style, their status, their success. But here's the truth most won't admit. Being impressive is surface level. It's temporary. It fades. You impress someone today, and by tomorrow they've already moved on to the next shiny thing. But impact lasts. Because impact isn't about what people think of you. It's about what you leave in them. You walk into a room trying to be impressive, and all you're doing is performing. You're calculating. You're watching their reactions. You're not being real. You're being strategic, hoping you're enough. But when you stop trying to impress and start focusing on making people feel something, you shift the entire dynamic. You stop looking outward for approval and start radiating inward with intention. That's when people pay attention. Not because you're trying, but because you're true. You want to improve your personality. Let go of the need to be liked. Let go of the addiction to being admired. Instead, ask yourself, what energy am I leaving behind when I walk away? What does my presence make people feel? Do I lift the room? Do I challenge them to rise? Do I leave people better than I found them? Because that's what matters. That's what builds trust. That's what makes your personality unforgettable. People forget compliments. They forget fancy introductions. But they never forget how you made them feel about themselves. You could say all the right things, wear all the right clothes, and still leave no mark. Because your focus was on being noticed, not on making a difference. But when you show up with intention, with presence, with integrity, people remember. Not because you were flashy, but because you were real. Being impactful means having the courage to be consistent even when no one's watching. It means choosing your words with care. Not to impress, but to uplift. It means not talking over people just to prove a point, but listening to them in a way that makes them feel respected, even when you disagree. It means showing up fully. Even when you're tired, even when you're doubted, even when it's hard. Because you understand that your presence is a responsibility, not a performance. People crave authenticity. They crave substance. And when they find someone who walks into a space not trying to dominate it but to serve it, to understand it, to elevate it, that's rare. That's the kind of person who shifts atmospheres, not with noise, but with depth. So no, you don't need to impress anyone. You need to impact them. You need to speak truth when it's uncomfortable. You need to show strength through humility. You need to build your presence from the inside out, not with flash, but with fire. A quiet fire that says, I know who I am. I know what I stand for. And I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to make this room better than it was before I walked in. That's power. That's legacy. That's personality that doesn't just get remembered. It gets felt. Every single moment you experience, every conversation, every setback, every victory, every rejection is shaping you. The question is, are you paying attention? Most people walk through life asleep, letting moments pass without learning a damn thing. And then they wonder when nothing changes. Why they keep repeating the same patterns. Why their personality never sharpens. It's because they're wasting the very things designed to build them. You think your personality is just who you are. It's not. It's what you do with what happens to you. It's how you interpret failure. It's how you react to pressure. It's how you grow from the uncomfortable. And if you're not using every single experience as a training ground, you're leaving your growth to chance. That's not strength. That's passivity, and it'll keep you stuck in mediocrity. Every conversation you have is an opportunity to practice presence. Every conflict is a chance to build emotional control. Every no you hear is training for resilience. You don't need a perfect environment to grow. You need the mindset to see that everything is part of the mission. That uncomfortable moment when someone disrespects you, that's not just an insult. That's a test. Are you going to let your ego lead, or are you going to respond with clarity? That awkward silence in a conversation, that's not a failure. That's a cue to practice listening, to get curious, to go deeper. The people who develop powerful, grounded, unforgettable personalities are the ones who treat life like the gym. Every day is a workout. Every challenge is resistance. And the ones who grow are the ones who lean into that resistance instead of running from it. They don't need life to be smooth. They need it to be real. Because that's where the reps are. That's where strength is built. That's where self-awareness is refined. In the middle of the chaos, the awkwardness, the frustration, you want to be unshakable. Then stop avoiding the hard conversations. Stop retreating when things get uncomfortable. Stop zoning out and pretending you're unaffected. Wake up, pay attention. Your next level isn't coming in some grand moment of inspiration. It's hidden in the ordinary interactions you keep ignoring. It's in how you deal with being talked over. It's in how you respond when someone disagrees with you. It's in how you show up when no one's clapping, when you're not the smartest person in the room, when your plan falls apart. Those moments, they're gold. But only if you use them. Your personality improves not in theory, not in intention, but in application. You don't grow by reading a quote. You grow by living through the fire and deciding, this is not going to break me. It's going to sharpen me. The people who rise aren't the ones with fewer problems. They're the ones who use their problems as fuel. They study life. They analyze themselves after every interaction. They ask, what could I have done better? Where did I lose focus? How can I lead more effectively next time? That's real self-development, not just journaling and vision boards. But showing up differently because you learned something from yesterday. Because you chose to extract meaning from every single moment. That kind of focus, that kind of hunger, it shapes a personality that can't be faked, can't be copied, and sure as hell can't be ignored. Most people are carrying around a version of themselves that isn't even real. It's stitched together from years of doubt, shame, conditioning, and trying to fit into boxes they never belonged in. And then they wonder why they feel disconnected, insecure, invisible. It's because they've buried who they really are under layers of performance and survival. But here's the hard true thing. You don't need to add more to become powerful. You need to remove everything that isn't you. You don't improve your personality by becoming something fake. You improve it by stripping away everything that was never yours to begin with. The people-pleasing, the fake confidence, the scripted smiles, the over-apologizing, the constant shrinking, all of it garbage. Not because you're weak, but because somewhere along the line you were told to tone it down. Be quiet, be smaller, be less. But let me ask you something. Less for who? You were not born to be digestible, you were born to be honest. To be bold, to take up space, and if the world told you otherwise, then your first step toward becoming who you're meant to be is to unlearn all that noise. You have to ask yourself what parts of me are true, and what parts are just protection. What am I doing because it's me, and what am I doing because I think it's what they expect? When you start peeling those layers back, it's not always pretty. It's uncomfortable, it's raw, it's quiet. But that's where your real strength lies, not in the mask, but in the muscle you build by choosing truth over comfort. By saying, I'm done hiding. By choosing to stop editing yourself so you can be accepted by people who don't even know who they are. That's when your personality starts to breathe. That's when your presence starts to carry weight. Because now you're not performing, you're embodying. And people can feel that. They can feel when you speak from alignment, not approval. When your energy comes from self-respect, not ego. And that's what makes you magnetic. Not being perfect, not being polished, but being whole. And understand this. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing growth. You don't have to explain why you stopped playing small, why you no longer tolerate nonsense, why you walk away from fake conversations and empty spaces. You're not obligated to remain the version of yourself that made others comfortable. Every day you get a choice: continue carrying the weight of who you used to be, or strip it away and step into who you really are. That's not rebellion, that's evolution. It's power. And if you want to walk through life with a personality that commands respect, you better get serious about protecting your authenticity. Because the world doesn't need another copy. It needs someone willing to be real in a sea of filters. Someone who isn't afraid to say, this is who I am, and I don't need to shrink to fit in places I've outgrown. That's where your presence starts to speak louder than your words. That's where confidence stops being noise and starts becoming quiet certainty. The kind that doesn't flinch, the kind that walks in a room and doesn't need a spotlight, because truth carries its own light. Most people live in reaction mode. Something happens, they react. Someone disrespects them, they explode. Life gets tough, they shut down. They spend their days being pulled by emotion, by circumstances, by whatever chaos walks through the door. And then they wonder why they feel powerless. Why they can't seem to take control. It's because they're not leading their life, they're surviving it. And surviving doesn't build a strong personality. Leading does. You want to be powerful, then stop reacting to life and start designing it. That means every decision you make has to come from intention, not impulse. You don't wake up and see how the day goes. You decide what kind of energy you're bringing into that day. You don't walk into a conversation hoping to wing it. You walk in with clarity, with poise, with purpose. That's how you take control of your personality. You build it with precision. Reactive people are always exhausted, always on edge, because they're constantly giving their power away. Someone cuts them off in traffic, and their whole mood is ruined. One passive-aggressive comment, and they spiral. One piece of bad news, and they can't function. That's not strength, that's vulnerability in its weakest form. Emotional chaos with no anchor. But intentional people, they don't hand their power over like that. They choose how to respond. They create space between the trigger and the action. They breathe. They assess. They control the room because they've already controlled themselves. And that's what presence really is. It's the ability to remain centered when everything around you is trying to knock you off balance. You want to improve your personality. Then get crystal clear about who you are and who you are not. Make decisions that align with that person, regardless of how you feel in the moment. That's the hard part: consistency over emotion, discipline over mood, integrity over impulse. You don't build character by accident. You build it by choosing to show up the same way even when no one's clapping, even when you don't feel like it, even when it would be easier to let your emotions run wild. It's not about being robotic. It's about being anchored. It's about knowing what you stand for so deeply that nothing external can knock you out of alignment. That's power. That's identity. And it doesn't happen through a motivational quote or a podcast. It happens through repetition, through commitment, through making choices that reflect who you're becoming, not who you were. And here's the truth. Every day, life is going to throw something at you. It's going to test your patience, your focus, your values. And if you're not rooted in intention, you'll start living in defense mode. You'll adapt to survive instead of evolving to lead. You'll start bending to fit people, situations, moods, and in the process you'll lose yourself. Again. But not you, not anymore. Because once you realize that your life responds to the energy you bring to it, you stop waiting for circumstances to improve and start improving yourself. You become intentional with your time, with your boundaries, with your words, with your circle, with the way you enter a room, the way you walk, the way you breathe. Nothing is random, nothing is careless. Everything has purpose, and that's what makes you unforgettable. Not the clothes, not the charm, not the performance. The discipline of being consistent with who you are. The focus of knowing why you do what you do, and the courage to lead your life, even when it would be easier to follow your emotions straight into chaos. Because when you lead your life with intention, your personality stops being reactive noise and becomes strategic power. And that kind of power, that's the kind that builds trust. That commands rooms. That outlasts trends, opinions, and temporary applause. That's the kind of personality the world doesn't just notice, it remembers. So now you know. It's not about talent. It's not about being born with something special. It's about the decision you make every single day to build who you are. Not once, not when it's convenient, but every day, in the silence, in the struggle, in the places no one sees and no one claps for. That's where powerful personalities are made. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be loud. You need to be intentional. You need to be disciplined. You need to be real. Strip away who you're not. Train the voice in your head before the world trains it for you. Carry yourself like someone who belongs, not because you're trying to prove it, but because you've earned it. And remember, presence speaks louder than words. Energy leaves a longer impression than performance. And your growth, it will never be accidental. It will be the result of choices, daily, relentless, uncompromising. So don't just aim to be seen, aim to be felt. And never forget your personality isn't who you've been, it's who you're becoming. Lead that process, own it, and let the world adjust to you.